first of all, I would say it's a great time to be in tech, period. Right? Digital transformation, technology, certainly in healthcare, one of the lessons from the pandemic, and certainly one of the reasons that I moved into the healthcare industry was because we know healthcare needs to be moved into the digital age. And I think we all understand, and the pandemic showed that even more, the need for data sharing, data interoperability, the need for digital capabilities to not only improve the experience that we all have as customers that we provide to our members and our providers, but to also improve health outcomes and ultimately make healthcare much more affordable. And that's certainly the mission at Blue Shield of California. So you're right, the market it's a crazy market right now. A lot of lessons of people, self-reflection coming through the pandemic and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel on the other end of what's most important to you. What are you most passionate about, and where do you want to spend your time in having an impact? And certainly those were questions that I thought about deeply prior to making the move, out of high tech into healthcare, and wanting to be in a role where I could have impact and make an impact on changing, which I think we probably can all agree on, a healthcare system that needs to be changed. So that's number one. So if you're in technology, you're in the right field, and there's lots of opportunities. And we ourselves at Blue Shield of California are hiring lots of people. So make sure you're checking those out. I had to put in that personal plug. Second of all, as you talk about diversity, absolutely, it's not just women, but it's certainly women is one of the populations, as well as our Latino and Black population, that the numbers are not improving. The numbers keep dwindling, and it's an area that we have to continue to build a pipeline in. And there's lots of different reasons for that as to why the numbers aren't improving. But first and foremost, understanding that need for diversity at the table is so important, because ultimately it drives better business results and outcomes. Having that diverse perspective around the table, and that diversity, no matter what color, what sex, whatever the case may be, varying backgrounds, just diversity in a broad sense brings different perspectives and ideas to the table that ultimately drives better business results. So I think it's important that we state that up front. So what's happening? Why are we losing women to the workforce? Well, sadly, during the pandemic, we've actually taken many steps backwards, because we lost 4 times as many women in the workplace as it was to men, mainly because as women, many of us take on multiple roles of being the caretaker, those of us that still have small children, and making sure that our families are taken care of. So that is work that we need to do to ensure that we have flexible work policies and HR policies that get our women back into the workforce. But even prior to that, I would say, the pipeline starts back in middle school. Like we got to go all the way back, unfortunately. Yeah. And we got to attract our young girls, and those of us that had girls in middle school or in high school. It starts in middle school, where peer pressure becomes very strong. We need to encourage our girls to take robotics, to take math, to enjoy the sciences, and encourage them to continue with that in high school, so that they're prepared when they enter college to enter into these various STEM curriculums and degrees. So that's first and foremost what we must do. And to do that, there needs to be programs that help our young girls and encourage them to do that. But also there needs to be role models where they can see women in these technology leadership positions. And, I'll take my own daughter, who now is graduating high school, but as a middle schooler, She thought being in technology meant I was sitting in a dark room, not talking to anyone, coding all day. Not very exciting for many of our young girls. So how we introduce technology and teach technology to our young girls to get them interested and frankly captivated and inspired about how technology actually changes the world and can make the world a better place is how we grab have their attention, and then keep them as they're entering to college. All of us as women, certainly I feel it's my responsibility to reach back and pull as many women forward. But we as women also need to push ourselves forward, right? So we all have a tendency, and we learned this if you read the book, Lean In with Sheryl Sandberg, is, I look at a job description, unless I feel comfortable with every job requirement on that description, I'm like, oh, I'm not qualified. But no offense to my male colleagues on the call. They're like, oh yeah, I can do that. And they go ahead and apply for the role. So you have to take risk. When you take those risks is where you have certainly the greatest learning and the greatest rewards that come from that. So those are things, and and then I'll kind of move into the last part of your question, Carol, of over my career, where frankly I've worked in male-dominated environments my entire career, where I was the only woman in the room, starting as an undergraduate at Syracuse as a computer engineering major, one of a couple women in my class. No, I'm not going to tell you what year that was, because you'll all be doing the math in your head. But in Department of Defense, into academia, into high tech, even at Intel a few years back, I'm looking around the room at a meeting at a financial partner in New York City, and I'm sitting at the table with 40 guys at the conference table. Not okay. What is so empowering about healthcare is that I do see more women in the executive ranks and leadership ranks in healthcare, and I'm really proud of what we're doing at Blue Shield of California, where not only do we have a zero pay gap, but we have 50% representation at the executive leadership ranks, 50% representation at our board, and a board chair for the first time in history that is female.
Fantastic. There's so much that you said that I would love to comment on. I'm like, I know, I have so many things to respond to on that. I know one of the things that you talked about as well, when you were, took over at Blue Shield of California, and the ability for talent to be, kind of the soft skill that we had talked about earlier, that lifelong learning, the adaptability and the agility. And something that you had commented on was just, how fast technology is changing and how your needs are changing so quickly. And so, to keep the mindset of knowing, to come in, knowing what you know, but also being able, willing, and excited about learning something new, and partnering with the company to solve business problems and business challenges. So not thinking of ourselves just as technologists, but really thinking of ourselves as problem solvers, and really getting into the business and knowing how we can really solve problems together was a mindset that I had heard you talk about on a separate webinar. And I really thought that aligned nicely to Reviture values and something that we look for in our talent at the beginning when people are really just starting their careers.
It's a really important point you called out, Carol, because all of us, first of all, if you're in technology, then you've entered a discipline that is continually evolving and changing, and staying current in your skill set is absolutely critical. Beyond that, and even taking a step back and thinking broader, having that growth mindset, being curious, wanting to continually learning and growing. I mean, even after my 30 years in technology, I'm continually learning and growing. And part of the reason why I came to healthcare, because there was so much that needed to be done. And frankly, so much that I needed to learn in terms of how I could apply my knowledge and experience to helping create a digital health ecosystem. We all should be thinking that way of being curious and being flexible and continuing to grow and learn and get really good at not only the technology piece, but the business piece, right? So I've always thought about development, kind of in a triangle as you continue to grow and learn in your careers. You have your technical acumen, which continues to need to be fed. You have your business acumen in the business that you are. And another piece of that when it comes to really understanding the business is the financial acumen, right? Because this is a constant conversation, at any company that you're in, of how do I leverage technology? How do I work within a funding envelope? What is the funding or the ROI that I'm going to get out by moving something to digital or automating a capability or leveraging AI and analytics? So, it's kind of this triangle of skill sets that you'll continue to grow and should continue to develop on. And when you have a breadth of knowledge across that triangle, then you're really marketable in terms of what you can offer and what you bring to the table.